Welcome to another episode of Optimize Your Body podcast, ladies and gents. Today, I'm going to be telling you how you should be eating more to lose fat. You heard me correctly. Eat more and get the body you desire. Now, first of all, let's talk about the big problem at hand here, right? And that is sustainable weight loss and calorie restriction. Okay. Now, we've got all the information available to us more than any other time in human history, actually. Why is it that unfortunately people are getting fatter and they're getting sicker? Now, it's not weight loss that's the issue, my friend. Remember, it's keeping the weight off. Over 85% of people gain all the weight back they lost and more once they've lost the weight. So the weight loss is not the problem, it's keeping the fat off, keeping the weight off, and maintaining metabolic health. So move more and eat less. All right, that's all you've got to do, my friends. How many times have you heard that advice? Move more and eat less. Terrible advice. Really pisses me off. Calorie deficit. That's all you got to do is be in a calorie fucking deficit, right? That's what you hear a lot of people saying. Excuse the French, but I get frustrated with this stuff. And it's not that easy, right? And human behavior is actually very complex. And if it was that simple, everyone would be walking around in tremendous shape, bikini bodies, six-pack abs, and all the rest of it. But we all know that's far from the case. So first of all, what you got to look at from an evolutionary standpoint is when you're losing weight, essentially all the body knows, now there's a little bit of context that comes into play here, but generally all the body thinks when you're losing weight, because remember, all the body cares about is survival and adaptation. That's all it gives a shit about. It thinks you're getting closer to death. Think about this now from a scientific standpoint. You get dumped on this desert island, the more weight you've got on your body, the longer you're going to live, okay? Because you've got more calories to burn through and more fatty tissue to actually keep you alive. So the first thing you want to take into account here is actually your body doesn't want you to lose weight, right? So think of that. You have to go against those signals, and there's only so far you can go going against those signals. And what happens when you're in a prolonged calorie deficit, for example, or you've been restricting calories for a long period of time and dropping weight, what happens is essentially the hormones go wild. And quite frankly, people get quite crazy, right? You may have been there before when you've been dieting down and you start getting a little bit snappy. I've been there many a times, right? Bodybuilding comps, everything gets impacted, right? And what happens is hormones such as leptin is known as a satiety hormone. So it actually tells you when you're full and when to stop eating. That actually reduces significantly when you're in a prolonged calorie deficit. Ghrelin increases. Ghrelin is known as the hunger hormone, which tells you to eat more, and that increases drastically. So that's a problem, right? Because you're actually hungrier. Testosterone levels reduce. Thyroid hormones T3 and T4 can significantly drop. Those hormones are responsible for metabolism and lots of other things, right? Regulating metabolism, loads of things which I won't go into. So what we're going to look at, and what I want to talk about today is I'm going to give you some case studies with clients as well to give you some examples of what we do to achieve this in terms of eating more, to lose fat and to get into incredible shape. And I want to talk about the concept of reverse dieting as well, right? Now, I get asked this question all the time, which is why I want to cover it today, because people struggle with calorie restriction and they want to know more about how can I do that? Look, they always say to me and to some of my clients when they post stuff, how come you eat so much and you look like that? Well, I'm going to tell you right now how we do that, my friend, right? Now, first of all, I want to talk about who should be eating more and potentially reverse dieting. This is for any yo-yo dieters, right? Look, if you've struggled for years, if you've lost weight, you've followed certain diets or certain ways of eating like most people, and you've lost weight and gained it back, and you've had that yo-yo approach with your weight where it's fluctuated, it's dropped down, it's gained back up, and you're stuck in that vicious cycle, this is for you. People who essentially want to just build the body they desire. If you want to get into the shape of your life physically and aesthetically, and you want to build literally the best shape you've ever built, best physique you've ever built, this is also for you, right? Add in more calories and reverse dieting. If you've dieted down and lost loads of weight, right? And you're one of those people who say, I get this all the time, right? I'll figure it out afterwards. People say this all the time. The metabolism doesn't work like that. I'm just going to hit my goal weight. I'm going to drop 50 pounds. I'll figure out the rest afterwards. My friend, that is a massive trap. And that's going to put you into a worse position. Okay. Because the metabolism doesn't work like that. I'll go deeper on this anyway. So long story short, that's the kind of people it's for, which actually covers pretty much everyone, right? Now, bottom line is, what is reverse dieting? Okay. Reverse dieting basically involves gradually increasing your calorie intake to boost metabolism, and in some cases prevent weight regain after dieting. So people who diet right down, they potentially might hit their goal weights, and then a lot of people gain all the fat back, like I said. So that's when you've got to have a strategic approach to reverse dieting. Also, it will normalize your hormone levels, right? After years of potentially dieting or yo-yo dieting, losing weight and gaining it back, right? Because you do a lot of damage, and your hormones are going to be, I don't want to say damaged, but dysfunctional, right? Once you've done that for a certain period of time. Now, what benefits do you get from taking this approach of eating more and potentially reverse dieting? Number one, like I say, you're going to get more balanced hormones and healthier hormones with thyroid, testosterone, and the sex hormones, reduced cortisol levels. I can keep going down the list. Two, energy levels are going to just be transformed, essentially, right? When you're fueling your body better. Surprise, surprise, you fuel your body better and your energy levels go up. Crazy that, isn't it? Number three, you're going to develop your metabolism. I don't like using the words damaged metabolism, but essentially that is what it is, right? People who've struggled and yo-yo dieted for years, what happens is, or tried to, or done extreme methods with dieting, is they actually damage their metabolism in a sense. But what happens is, I like to describe it this way, where their metabolism is underdeveloped. So that's actually good, right? That's, your body's just done what it should be doing. It's kept you alive. If you've been starving your body, right, it's going to adapt by getting more efficient with calories, right? And then it's essentially going to slow down. And that's not what you want. But however, to keep you alive, that's exactly what the body should be doing, right? So it's just doing what it needs to do to survive. And then the other benefit then is going to be reduced appetite and hunger. And the great one here is you get to eat more food, right? Which is fantastic. Now, the downsides, I'm going to talk a bit deeper on. The downsides are going to be, it's very hard to execute, psychologically especially. People have these barriers. And I'm sure you get an anxiety just listening to this. Oh my God, how can I eat more? I'm going to get fat, right? And obviously, if you just eat more, and you haven't got a strategy, and you're not doing it where you're eating the right types of foods, etc., obviously you're going to get fatter, right? That's a reality. However, when you do it strategically, you actually get life-changing results. But a lot of people have that psychological barrier where it holds them back, and they end up just spinning their wheels, and they don't have the confidence or the know-how to do it properly. So it's actually very hard to execute as a downside when you're trying to do it on your own. The other thing then is it focuses heavily on calories, right? It's not something you can do wishy-washy. You have to be dialed, and you have to be tracking calories and stuff like that generally. I mean, you don't have to be tracking calories and stuff, so don't tune out when you hear that. You can do it without doing this if you're focusing on the right types of foods and protein target and stuff. But generally, you have to kind of focus on calories, right, to do this the right way. Now, let's just get into it, right? How do I eat more, Martin, and get into the shape of my life and lose this fat that I want to shift? Now, I'm going to give you an example of two. I could go down the list of hundreds of clients who've achieved this, my friend, right? But I want to talk about two recent transformations that I've had with clients. The first client is Reese, right? Now, Reese is 53 years old. He was actually on a previous podcast. And long story short, he struggled for years with losing weight and gaining it back, especially over the last kind of 3-4 years post-COVID. And he got himself stuck in a rut. He was training. He loves training, but he wasn't training smart. And he just basically he got himself into the worst shape of his life, essentially, physically and mentally. Now, basically, he started back in May. And what we did is, I'm going to tell you exactly what we did to overcome all this now. And with the nutrition, number one, what we focused on is hitting at least 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Or if you're doing it in kilos, it's about 1.8 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, around about that, right? So for Reese, that looks like around about 150 grams of protein. So what does that look like in food? It looked like, either 3 meals with, say, 2 palm-sized amounts of meat on each meal, okay? Sorry, 2 meals where he's having like a big portion of meat, essentially, and then maybe a protein shake on the third one. Or ideally, he'd just be having 3 meals with 1 to 2 palm-sized amounts of meat on his plate for each meal. Very simple. And he would hit that target, right? Number two, to speed his metabolism up, we basically were training smarter. So we were doing 2 to 3 full body sessions a week. And then he was just doing maybe some band recovery work on the days in between to speed his metabolism up. And then in terms of strategically increasing calories, what I would do is I've been adding, give or take, around about 50 to 100 calories to his intake, daily intake, every time we switch up the training. So every kind of 3 to 4 weeks, we would do that. And he's had insane results. He's actually, by actually eating more protein, right, and chasing foods, essentially, because that's what he's been doing, actively trying to eat more protein and just making sure he gets enough calories in. This has been a struggle for him. He said to me, man, I'm struggling to hit this number, right? And what has happened is he's dropped, how much did he drop? 8 pounds. He's dropped 8 pounds, and all of that coming from fat. And he's actually gained 4 pounds of muscle, right, within his first 90 days. And literally, like I say, his biggest struggle is being able to get enough food in. So that's basically what we've done. It's very simple and very strategic. And what he's been doing, and Reese is fine doing this, a lot of people struggle with this. He's been having meat for breakfast. When he's a very busy guy, right? He's just released a book. If you listen to the previous podcast, he's been on TV. You can find him on bloody Amazon Prime. Reese Jones's Wildlife Patrol. He's a busy man. He's an evolutionary biologist as well, and he's also a university lecturer. He's very busy, right? So we managed to do this by simply, whenever he's not busy, he's been having meat for breakfast. And by having his beef patties, for example, and eggs for breakfast, right, it sets him up to win for the day then, because he's satiated. And then he's not struggling chasing his tail in the evening, trying to get like 100 grams of protein into his evening meal. So he's just been spreading it out over like 3 meals generally. So quite a simple approach, but not easy to execute, right? You've got to be organized. And we've had to adapt things when he's been really, really busy and traveling. So we can kind of basically just have 2 meals and have more protein on his plate. So yeah, that's kind of how we've done it in a nutshell, is increasing calories every training phase, every 3 to 4 weeks, and making sure we're hitting at least, 150 grams of protein. Ideally, I like to get him to aim for the optimal amount, which is like a gram of protein per pound of body weight minimum. So sometimes he hits 200 grams. Very, very simple. So the next client I want to talk about is Karen. Now, Karen is 52. I've got a different kind of clients at different ages and stuff. However, my average age for clients is around about anywhere between kind of like 30 and 35 and 55, around about that. So Karen is 52. And basically, she was really struggling with menopause symptoms and everything, right? When she reached out, and weight loss, weight gain. Now, her hormones are obviously out of balance. Menopause didn't help with that. But she was really struggling with lifestyle and behaviors with food. And as I say, fat gain. Now, what we've done to basically get her into the shape of her life at the age of 52 is Karen had never really lifted weights before. So again, with the strength training element, I've talked about this before, it's absolutely essential if you want to develop your metabolism, build muscle, and really kind of get into the shape of your life on a body composition level. So with Karen, she was quite new to strength training. So we started her off doing like home workouts. And then eventually, after like 2 or 3 months, we got her in the gym. And she's just been getting stronger and stronger, going from strength to strength. So that was a game changer, because that really supercharged her metabolism. And then she started losing fat straight away. But then the big one then was, again, coming back to protein. We've doubled her protein intake gradually over time. And something Karen said to me on a call the other day is that she no longer has the desire to eat those processed foods that she used to struggle with. That's something she used to really battle with, is eating things like chocolate and just garbage. And she no longer, like when she goes to the supermarket, she just looks at that food like it's not even real food anymore. She just doesn't have the desire to eat it, which is huge. When you get to that point where you're just programmed to eat real food, it's very hard to lose, providing you've got like a bit of a strategy, right? Also, the third thing then was doing movement over cardio. So rather than doing lots of cardio and slowing the metabolism down, and again, getting her body to become more efficient with calories and store fat, we changed the signal, focus on strength training, high protein, and movement over cardio. So just doing more steps. And long story short, she's literally got into the shape of her life. And if you want to see the transformations, they're quite recent ones on my Instagram page. Just go to my Instagram at Martin Silver Fitness, and you'll see them towards the top of my page, Karen and Reese. So yeah, that's kind of what we did in a nutshell. So sounds very simple on paper. However, these people have been struggling with calorie restriction for years, trying to cut back on calories and just constantly spinning their wheels and actually getting fatter, really. So because we've now, even though I say they're eating more, they're not necessarily eating more calories per se, but they're eating better quality foods, right? So I just want to summarize on this, my friend, right? Now, long story short, what you need to focus on when it comes to eating more to get into the shape of your life is you need to focus on eating high protein, right? That's the number one thing. You have to be consistently having high protein food. So what I would say as an action step is aim to hit, if you can, an ideal, a gram of protein per pound of body weight, or if you're doing kilos, 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, right? If you can do that, but you can't guess, right? So I'd recommend tracking that. There's so much value in doing that. Even if you just do that for like a week, track using an app like MyFitnessPal app and see where you're at, right? So if you weigh 150 pounds, aim to hit 150 grams of protein. But again, it really depends on where you're at. And that's why all my clients, I meet them where they're at. If someone's having like Karen was grossly under eating. She was eating like 50 grams of protein a day. We built her up to having 120 grams a day now, but that took time, to double or triple her protein intake. It took time. So I started her off with having like an extra 20 to 30 grams a day. So we started off with like 80 grams a day and just built it up over time. So you got to be realistic with the goals you're setting as well. But yeah, having that amount of protein and tracking that, and eating, getting most of that protein through whole meat, really, right? Ideally, good quality meat, such as grass-fed beef, free range if you're eating chicken. If you're having fish, make sure it's wild fish and not farmed. And high volume as well, my friend, as well. So it feels like you're eating more when you're having lots of vegetables on your plate, for example, right? However, vegetables are really high in volume. So you put them on your plate, it looks like a lot of food, but they're low in calories and high in fiber. So on top of the protein, they help keep you satiated, right? And then the other action step then is follow a proper strength training program, because that's going to speed your metabolism up and allow you to get away with way more calories. And you're going to add muscle to your body. So you're going to look better and feel better anyway and start, making progress towards the body that you desire. The other simple thing I want to tell you to do is eliminate cardio. If you're going to focus on reverse dieting and slowly, increasing protein or increasing calories, you need to eliminate cardio, because that's going to, or at least reduce it significantly. So you're just doing it like once a week or something and focusing on steps instead and strength training as often as possible. And that's actually going to then get your metabolism developed. It's going to help your metabolism speed up and burn more calories by itself. And it's going to help you get stronger and build muscle faster, which is what you want. So eliminate or significantly reduce the cardio, right? And the other thing then is just what gets measured can get managed, right? So track the data. Guessing gets you nowhere, right? So, you want to be taking photos, for example, every week or 2 weeks or maybe 4 weeks, right? And having a look at is my body changing? Am I tightening up? Doing measurements with your body in terms of good old tape measure, getting on the weigh-in scales and doing body composition if you can as well with the body fat. Like the more you can measure, the better. But as long as you have something to gauge, like photos are the most simple metric to go by, and clothes as well, notice with your clothes. But when you look into reverse diet and add muscle to your body, you have to be patient and you have to be willing to do that over a good long period of time. It doesn't happen overnight. You want to be focusing on like a solid 6 months of doing this, minimum, depending on where you're at. Okay. But that's why I said earlier, it's hard to execute on your own, but measure the data and what you should be looking at with your weight on the scales, for example. Now, this really depends. It's hard to give you a black and white answer. But what you should be looking at is your weight should be staying the same or going up a little bit. Okay. If it goes up by, let's say it went up by a pound each month, but as long as you're adding muscle to your body and you're getting stronger, you're feeling your body tighten up, and you may even, it depends on where you're at in terms of how much fat you've got to lose and where you're at in your journey, but you should even lose a little bit of fat, especially at the start of the process. As you increase in protein and calories, your metabolism speeds up and then you build muscle. The weight doesn't change much on the scales. It might go up by a pound or two, like I said, but you're still losing fat and building muscle. So that's kind of where you should be. Your weight shouldn't really be changing that much if you're doing it right. Depending on where you're at, of course, in the journey. So yeah, that's kind of the main action steps I wanted to give you on that. So just to kind of give you some simple principles and stuff you can kind of take away from this, right? You want to look at, number one, food quality, right? And hitting the amount of protein that I mentioned and getting that through single ingredient foods primarily. If you're eating ultra processed foods, which are designed to make you overeat, then you're going to be fighting a losing battle. Okay. Number two, you want to be following a proper strength training program, okay, where you're focusing on getting stronger. You're measuring what you're doing as well, ideally. So you're getting stronger week on week. You're either adding weight or you're adding more reps. So you're progressively overloading your body. And number three is just measure the data, right? Like track what's going on. Am I actually building muscle? Am I getting stronger? Am I tightening up in photos? You know, and be patient with it. And you got to be able to focus on that one thing: building muscle, getting stronger, eating adequate protein, and slowly just increasing. When I say increase calories, you could just increase protein, like every month or whatever. You could, or even every week, you can increase protein by a little bit. Right, I'm going to eat an extra couple of eggs, or I'm going to eat an extra, 100 to 200 grams of meat a day or whatever, right? If you do that, then you might be adding more fats as well, but your metabolism has to work harder and burn more calories because it costs more energy for your body to digest protein. So if you take that simple strategy and do that, but again, it has to be ideally coincided with a proper training program as well to do this the right way, my friend. All right. So that's kind of all the information I wanted to give you today, because it can be very overwhelming. It's kind of simple, but to do this in a way where it's going to be effective and you're not going to gain fat, right? You want to be doing it in a smart way. You want to be increasing protein. You want to be having a strategy. You want to be tracking the data. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up there, ladies and gents. And yeah, I just wanted to finish this with as well. I wanted to give you this exclusive, basically update. Now, long story short, I want to announce it to you guys first before I put it on social media. My 6-week program, I'm actually going to be launching this on the 16th of October is going to be the start date. Now, normally it's a massive opportunity for you to be able to get your foot in the door, right? Because normally my minimum sign up is 3 months. And it's going to be starting on Monday, the 16th of October and finishing on 26th of November, which is perfect timing for all those Christmas parties and to really get you feeling on top form at the end of the year, right? So I'm going to be taking on 8 people, and all you got to do if you want to get involved with this and you want to literally get into the shape of your life within, even within 6 weeks, all you got to do is the form, basically, just drop me a DM. The best bet is to drop me a DM. Look in the show notes beneath this podcast. Drop me a DM with the word info on Instagram. Or you can fill out, the coaching inquiry form, which the link is also in the show notes. Better if you just drop me a DM though. Or if you want to just drop me an email, admin@optimiseyourbody.com, and just send me the word info. And then we can kind of go from there. Make sure we're going to be a good fit working together. And then if we are, we'll get you into the shape of your life within 6 weeks, starting on 16th of October. So yeah, all good. And one more thing as well, in terms of some of the methods I mentioned here with nutrition and training, you can get my free, it's only free for you guys, for my training and nutrition guide, which is a level up guide, and all the methods in there have helped so many clients get into the shape of their life and really transform their relationship with food as well. So again, in the show notes beneath this, click the link and you're going to get it basically for free. So, all right, ladies and gents, thanks for listening. And I hope you got a ton of value from that episode. Speak soon.